I wanna start in a very weird way, yeah? So let's talk as if we are like talking to each other, yeah? Like we're
Mm,
not actually recording, okay?
yeah. Okay, we're starting. I'll start. Okay.
No, no, I start.
I start.
Okay, you start.
Okay, you start. You start. It's okay. I will follow up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Um okay. Welcome back to No Boundaries, and this is the Who's Next series with ABD.
And Fardan.
In this series, we interview young professionals who have lived, studied, and worked in more than one country. And in today's episode, we thought it would be nice for you guys, our listeners and viewers, to get to know more about us rather than listening to other people talk about their experience. We thought it would be um, time for us to talk about our experience. So, for then, who are we gonna interview today?
Let's do your episode today, and then mine we can do the next one.
Okay, that works for me.
So yeah, let's start. Abdul, so could you tell for our listeners a short introduction of yourself? Like, what did you study? What are countries you have lived? And what you did in your bachelor's and anything else that can be interesting?
So, my name is Abdelrahman Gad, or more commonly known as ABD or Abdu. And I'm Egyptian. I've lived a couple of my first, like, I've lived my childhood years in Egypt till the age of 7. And then I traveled because my dad kept traveling to like different jobs, kept changing jobs. And so I had to travel to Qatar, then the UAE. And an interesting thing is I kept changing schools. Then fast forward after skipping, after like going from through 6 different schools, I graduate and I go into mechanical engineering in Dubai, where I graduate in 2018. And right now I'm doing my master's in management in Germany at at TUM University or at the Technical University of Munich. It's been a shift, and I'm probably going to be talking about that later on. Uh, I am if if I would say anything interesting about me, it's the fact that I don't live in the present. I actually live in the future, and I don't. So the way I see it is, if I'm living in the future, I'm trying my hardest to reach the future that I'm setting for myself.
Okay, that's some really interesting stuff which I'm still trying to decipher in my mind. Probably, probably people are also thinking about what are you talking about? Maybe we can dive into that later. So tell us a bit about your school life because you have lived in different places. So how was the school life? How were the teachers and students? And yeah, go ahead.
So my first couple of years, I think I went to like a nursery school when I was very young. I don't remember like when exactly because it was really like irrelevant, I think, or to me it was irrelevant. Like I don't remember it. And then afterwards, I because of like the Egyptian system when it comes to schooling, I think like it depends on what month you're born in. And if you're like before and the month of September, I think you waste a year. You waste an entire year before, like you go into school a little bit later than everyone else.
Mm.
So my dad didn't like that, and he tried to have me go to do KG2, like kindergarten 2, and grade 1 in the same year. And since he did that, and I don't know how I actually like did it, all I remember was I had to like keep going from one school to the other, and I didn't understand anything. I just enjoyed it. So after that, moving on to Qatar, I think I went to an American system school where everything was a bit, I think, harder, I would say. I mean, at the time, I don't know. Um, so it was a bit harder. I didn't really like studying. I liked to read science books, but I didn't really like what they were teaching us. I don't know why as well. Moving on, I went to the United Arab Emirates where I joined Sharifat Khalifa City, and I think I started to like rebel. That was my rebelling years where I just wasn't listening to any teacher and I was just doing whatever I wanted. And I think my school went like that ever since. Like I was just like not caring about anything and I just wanted to get school over with. And it's really weird because of uh how I changed after I graduated from high school. So I don't think like I think that was it. Like I was really bored at school and nothing really interested me.
I can be like, okay, so like I can certify that, like, after you moved to Abu Dhabi, you've been the same because I've done university with you. So I know your character from Shoifat Khalifa City continued until Heriotworth. Now I don't know how you are in TEM because I don't study with you, but yeah, maybe. So yeah, you told a lot about the school. So like, is there anything important that you learned, or like a lesson or something that you kind of never forgot, or you still try to follow it?
So I think this is interesting because coming from someone who like during the time of like during high school and school in general, I just didn't really care about anything that was happening around me. I just wanted to get like everything over with. One of the things that really was or that affected me at the time and still is affecting me is the fact that how you can actually learn from people who are bad and people who are good. So it was like for me, when I met bad teachers, I learned from them how not to be bad. Or like I took like I looked at what they did wrong and I tried to not like I tried not to do it. And similarly, when a teacher was nice to me or um treated everyone in a really good way and was really welcoming, kind, and tried to like explain stuff. I kind of also took these traits and tried to like copy them somehow. And I think this also was there because moving from moving through different schools, you get to learn how to adapt very quickly. Like I think maybe when I first shifted schools in the beginning, it was a bit tough for me. But then later on, I just took it as a sort of new adventure. And everyone who was there, I just thought of them as friends and just started like communicating with them. So these are, I think, the two lessons I probably learned from shifting and from like being in different schools. And I think I still follow them till now.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting also because like I guess you moved kind of more than me, like at least in the beginning years. And like when I moved to, because I moved very later, because I was in one place for like 10 years, and then when I was gonna move, it felt kind of weird. But then once I moved, like it was easier for me to adapt, and like like I moved from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. So when I did that, like how different these two cities are and how different the people are.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was kind of weird, but then like it was also a good thing that I learned from. Anyways, we can talk about more of me in the next episode. So,
yeah.
uh, I mean, you did bachelor's in mechanical at Heriot-Watt. So, why did you choose to do that, and why specifically Heriot-Watt?
So I think like it's really interesting because I didn't want to go to university, and it's gonna be surprising because of my following answers, but I didn't want to go to university because like being in high school, I always thought of myself as someone who was gonna like pave his own way through life, um, and like start as whatever, but end with the end goal being achieved. So when it came to that, I always thought of myself like not a salesman, but like as a trader, as someone who buys and sells and keeps like growing a business or growing his own work. Um, when I graduated, when I finished high school, I mean, I just wanted to like take a year off to decide whatever I wanted. But what I wanted to do was probably not understood by me at the time. So I always told, like, I was always like, I'm gonna, like, to my family, whenever anyone asked me, I would always say I wanted to become a mechanical engineer, not knowing why. But maybe it was because I loved racing, like playing racing games. And so, uh, and so when I had a discussion with my dad, I think I told him I wanted to do economics. But then when I asked him like what kind of jobs will I end up working in, I didn't really like the answer about. So in the end, he was like, just do a degree in engineering and then pursue whatever you want later after you're done. And so I basically chose mechanical engineering because it was the broadest out of all the other engineering fields. And to me, it felt like it was the hardest. So I was basically challenging myself.
Okay, so that was nice to hear. And so, like, how was your time as a student at Heriot-Watt? And how did you find mechanical engineering? Was it the hardest, like you just mentioned? And how was the atmosphere in general? Like, how were your classmates and professors?
Yeah. So, so I didn't answer why Harriet what. I think it was a very simple choice back, like when I was applying. I applied to like five universities, five of them in the UK where I got like acceptance, but my dad, and one of them was Harriet Watt in Scotland. But my dad wanted me to stay close, like close to where they were at the time. And then he was fine with me traveling afterwards, but I think there was really no benefit except going to Scotland that was going to change. And so I just decided to remain and then see where was going to take me. When it came to like life as a student over there, I think you would remember my first 2 years. inherit what I was just like the guy who went to class and then left. I was also in that zone where I was like I just wanted to also get like rid of it, like finish, get it over with, finish university and move on. So I was that kid who went into the class, finished the lecture, and then went home. So there was no actual um like formed relationships where I was like friends with people. I was just like classmates with whoever I had done projects with. And that sort of changed in the third year because of two main incidents. One, I took on or I entered a project where I was sort of like part of an interdisciplinary team where I got to see like how actual, like for example, actual work was being um, divided across all engineers, and that was really important for me because I didn't really understand what what mechanical engineers were supposed to do in Dubai or in the UAE in general. All you hear about is basically MEP engineers, and that was mainly it. So getting to experience how engineers can actually like be part of like an interdisciplinary team where they're working on softwares or buildings or whatever gave me like some insight into like where I could go. The other incident was I think the main one where I just like sort of rethought about how I was living life. And it was basically when I had a seminar in Dubai, and I didn't live in Dubai at the time, so I was staying with my uncle, and so we had a discussion over there, and he sort of like just told me the truth. He just spoke about how I was living life being dependent on my parents and how everyone was like everything was like getting put onto a plate or not spoon fed but like getting handed over. Like I was in a university, a very good one, and I was gonna graduate, find a job easily, and start working, and it was gonna be very simple. And so after that, I think I just went to my dad and told him I don't want any of your connections. I don't want any of like your help finding a job, etc. While that to me was like, yeah, I've done it, but like in reality, it was basically a soft solution for the time. I didn't really use his connections afterwards, so I started building them in the final year. And I think luck was there as well on our side. I think that's how we like found our engineering manufacturing partner. And yeah, so classmates and professors were I don't know how to talk about this to be honest. Like professors came in from all different cultural backgrounds. So to me it felt like I was getting um experience from all around the world. And students also came in from like Russia, India, Pakistan. We had a couple of Arabs, but not as many, like Syria, Egypt. Uh, what else? We had Russia. Did I say Russia?
Yeah, you just said. Okay.
Okay, and what else, man? Like, what countries did students come from?
I mean, in our class, that was it, I guess.
Yeah. So it was mainly like a cultural exchange, like more of a cultural exchange as opposed to like yeah. I mean it was basically cultural exchange between students and professors.
And how did you find interacting with some of the cultures you wouldn't have interacted with some of them as much as before?
So I always found it interesting to get to know about new cultures or new perspectives. So it was really um, interesting to me to get to learn about the Indian culture because normally I was a person who never really liked to share like his meal or anything actually. Like I just thought of like whatever I own was mine. And becoming friends with Indians just like opened my eyes to like different things and weird things. It was weird at first, but then I was like, it actually makes you get closer. Like you actually become better friends. And so I added it to my like sort of cultural skills. I don't know how to name it to be honest, but I just like took it over and started copying it as well. So that was like really interesting to me. And I think I said it before in one of the interviews, and I would not like change it. I think in the next like 50 years, I think Indians have one of those cultures that keeps growing because it like involves family, it involves sharing, it involves group like a group or a community building, and that's what's every human being is looking for. Even if you come in from like an individualistic society, I think you still are looking for a group to belong to, and that's very prominent in like the Indian culture.
All the Indians are gonna be like happy hearing a non-Indian saying good things about Indian culture. So yeah, yeah. Um, so during your time at Heriot, like, what kind of activities did you get yourself involved in, and like what are some important skills or like lessons that you learned during those activities?
Like I said, the first 2 years were very like plain and uninteresting to anyone. So I started actually doing most of my activities in the third year, where I joined careers ambassadors and I joined that extracurricular project where I was working in an interdisciplinary team. And it's funny how I joined either of them because normally you're like invited or you are like applying to join. And I think me joining the careers ambassadors was really funny because I applied, I was rejected, and then I went to the first careers event when I think you called us in, and
Yeah,
I don't I
yeah, yeah. I remember like I was told to get volunteers, and then like more than half of the volunteers were like people we know, like from mechanical engineers, and then Benita was like interest not she was impressed like you got so many guys and like they're really working really hard. I was like, yeah, like what else did you want to do? And then yeah, like that's why like she kind of knows like even most of the mechanical engineers also. Like that's how you joined this industry.
yeah, so most of them were our friends, and I still don't understand why we actually worked hard. I think we looked at it as a sort of a fun project to do together because we were bored or we just wanted to like something different, to do something different than our studies. And I remember I don't know what gave me like I think I don't remember what I was doing actually, but I think I took a huge part in it. I don't actually remember what I did, but because I took it, Benita just spoke to me like afterwards, and she was like, why don't you join us as well? And I was like, okay. I didn't really like I wasn't expecting anything. I just like it was really fun having like Shravan and Burberry as our like what do you call it? Like as our bouncers. And we had like sort of like a network of like I don't know, we were stopping people from entering, like uninvited people and or people from other universities.
They were stopping like uninvited people and also like people who weren't obeying the dress code, and it was fun. Like it was Ahmad Barbary and like Shawan. We we got the opportunity. Like she told like you like both of us to manage the people. Like you keep rotating them. Some of them take breaks. So like we were responsible for that. I guess you remember now. So like it was kind of fun because we told like let's put Shravan there because Shravan is like tall and big, right? So like people will
Yeah.
get people will get intimidated. We're like, okay, let's put Ahmad Barbary there because he's like tall. So like people will get intimidated, like not do crazy stuff. And then we had people inside doing stuff, and it was fun. Like I missed that day. It was never. I don't think there was any other event that I organized. Like it was so much more fun.
We definitely enjoyed our time there. In fourth year, I think I went in very hard with like my external activities. I sort of was handed the vice presidency of the petroleum chapter in our university, and that was very strange because I just went to one event and they just gave it to me after that. We also did our IMEC activities and our chapter, like for the mechanical engineers. And I think that's where most of our work, like um, the mechanical engineering department's work was like done, where we like organized like sessions, like workshops for students. We also like organized some, we invite like where we invite like we organized events where we invited guests over and like we organized food, we organized place, like the lecture rooms and stuff. So it was hectic in a way to like have an event every 1 week. I think we had one every 2 weeks, right? Or every week.
We had one every week for like the first 8 to 9
Eight
weeks.
8 weeks, yeah.
Let's say 8 weeks. Because after that, it's closer towards the end, and people don't really want to come.
Yeah, I mean, we tried very hard to like, have events each week. Um, and that's what we did. And I guess the reason behind me getting involved in lots of extracurricular activities was the fact that in my mind I was only thinking about how in the future our responsibilities was just gonna were like responsibilities were gonna grow bigger and bigger each year or each like stage in our life. And so I just wanted to give myself more responsibilities to see how I was gonna handle things. So that was like the reason behind why I did it. And I guess most of the skills that I've gained were managerial coordination skills, how to like um um not manage so how to manage like relationships with other people, how to like not sound too bossy or too picky or too like annoying. So it was like me getting to know how to like work with different people, different cultures, different.
Yeah, and you forgot to say that you were treasurer for MAKey, so I'm just gonna add that. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, like, I know that you're always interested in like kind of business and management. So where did you get that interest from? What did you do to take those things forward, and what do you do to develop your knowledge or skills in those fields?
So to me, the way I think of business is probably not like it's probably different from how uh like a young person would think about it. I think like um professionals who are in the industry would think of it in the same way or different way or in a different way. But my type of thinking was like I needed to know about how to like manage my relationships with people because I still think that even if we go into a world where robots are handling everything, you're still going to need people to run things. You're still going to need people to actually finish deals. You're still going to need people to like monitor these robots or AI systems or whatever. Like, and knowing how to manage your relationship with other people is essential everywhere, no matter where you go. Like, even if you're a doctor, even if you're a like if you're a doctor, you're managing your relationship with your patient. You're managing your relationship with your coworker. You're managing your relationship with your like senior, like your supervisor or your. So it's like that's how it was for me, and I took a theoretical approach and a practical approach. So my theoretical approach was to read, like ever since I joined university, I was reading about like uh, understanding the different like sources of income and understanding, for example, what it is like the basics of like a business, which is like HR, accounting, and like the boring stuff. And my practical approach was basically to sort of um, become that person in groups where I'm like organizing whatever we're doing. Like I wasn't really focusing on like excelling at what I was doing individually, but I was focusing on like how as a group we would do better or we would like have fun while we were doing our stuff. Because to me that was like or that felt like I was being successful at management.
Yeah, that was interesting. I guess it's like kind of more the practical approach, I would say. Um, yeah, so let's move on to the, let's say, your third phase, I would say. Why did you decide to do your master's in Germany? And why specifically you chose Petroleum definitely? And one more important thing is like, how did you decide to do that, your course, that is MSc Management? Yeah, did you have any other options on hand, like any other country or universities? Please enlighten us about that.
So uh it's a bit weird. Like I think ever since we started fourth year or the final year of university, you sent me a link because you knew I was interested in business and management. You sent me a link to this TUM University. Like I didn't know about it before. Or I didn't really like I didn't have any plans to be honest. I was like I just wanted to finish. By the time I was like by fourth year I was determined that no matter where I go I was just gonna do whatever it takes to achieve um my final goal. And so when you sent me that link, I think I discussed it. So I discussed it briefly with my dad, and my dad was like, he just asked me one question. just like he asked like when I joined engineering. He asked me, "Can you do it? Like, can you actually go into that masters and get accepted and finish it?" And my answer was like, "Yeah, like I can, like anyone can do anything. I mean, yes, like why not? Why can't I get accepted? Why can't I do it?" I think it was like I think some people would view how I answer or how I answer most questions as kind of like cocky or uh like how what do you call like people who like see overestimate themselves? I think that's like how I think people see or view my answers.
I think overconfident can be upward, maybe.
Yes, yes, yes. I think it's like overconfidence, but it was like I don't know. Like to me, I just like uh, say these things just to assure myself that I can do it. Like I try to remain as positive as I can, even though I knew that I was not sure of like my acceptance, but I just kept telling everyone I was gonna get accepted. So yeah, I did not consider any options other than that because I just like was like it's either this something I want to do or I don't want to do anything. Like I was just gonna go on with life and see like how I was gonna decide after my first like job, for example, and probably like that was gonna like make me decide other things. But I just chose this path as soon as I got the acceptance, and I'm seeing where it's gonna take me right now. Like I'm in it, so yeah.
I mean, you did get accepted in the end, so maybe your overconfidence is kind of good, or it kind of helped you focus, I guess, since you just have one option. Yeah. So, I mean, once you moved to Germany, uh, how did it feel? Like, how was that place? Like, it's in a different continent with different culture, different mentality, and yeah, tell us about that and like how was it compared to Egypt also? Like, tell us about that.
So I think I'm one of those people who felt a culture shock when I went back to Egypt. Like I I just was me. Like I was really different than people in the UAE. I was different from people in Qatar, for example. I was different. Like I even still think or like about why. Like I ask myself this question. Like why do I think or why do I view myself as someone who's different? Like why do I think differently and why do I like why is it there? Like why is that thought over there? And I think I know the answer, but I just choose not to accept it because of like I think it's simple. Like because of how I moved from like one school to the other, I just like became a blend of different personalities and cultures, and I was just like my mind was very open to like new stuff. So me going back and seeing like people do things in just one way and not accepting like another way was like very weird to me. Um, but like coming back to this question, when I first came to Germany, like it was my first time ever, September, end of like 20th of September 2018. I I sort of I thought at first like it was gonna be easy to like navigate inside the country, like ask questions and stuff. Like having actually learned German for like 2 years, I thought it was gonna be like a little bit easier. But the language I learned was not the language that they were using. So from there on, I managed to go back to go to like my Wege, or like my shared apartment place in Germany from the airport. Thank God. And um, so ever since I arrived and I started dealing with people, I just felt that same exact feeling as I felt in Egypt, which is basically people are doing things in one way and they don't welcome other ways of like doing stuff. So what's different, I can talk about like what's different between the two cultures, and they are different, but they still do not accept other like ways of doing stuff. So the German culture is like way more individualistic and they focus on like one's skills as opposed to like the group's outcome. And so over here you're gonna find people who are like focusing 100% on their life. They don't really care about their families or where their family is gonna be in like 10 years. They just like see where they're gonna be, and that makes them scared. I call it being scared because the German individual prefers to like go into one company, get hired in one company, and stay there forever. And I call this like being scared of change. So when a crisis happens or when something changes and skills are required to like be changed, there it's not really like part of the culture over here. Like it's a very slow paced change, which is probably preferred by them, maybe not by me or like people who like to keep like innovating and changing. The culture in Egypt is sort of similar. Like when it comes to change, they don't really welcome change a lot, but they are forced to change. Like if people are forced to do something in Egypt, they're gonna do it. But in Germany, it's like the opposite. If they're forced to do it, they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight, and they might even win, and in the end, like get the chance to not do it. But Egypt is like more lenient when it comes to these stuff. They're also like a society where it's like more focused on like a group's outcome than the individual's outcome. So like one person may lose, but if the entire company or the entire society wins as a part of it, they would like actually like that, and that individual who lost would not see it as a loss, but as a gain. Um, to answer like the question of like where would I stay in Germany in the future, it depends. Like I think it's a good place to stay. It's a good place to like start your career and develop your skills. But I think like more people would prefer to like go to countries where it's more relaxed. It's less of like bureaucracy and like paperwork and stuff. And yeah, like go back and chill, for example, and after like 20, 25 years from now. So I don't think I'm gonna remain for so long in Germany. Probably like 6 to 8 years max, and then it's gonna be like on to the next adventure. So yeah,
Yeah, that was a quite a long talk. And yeah, what you say kind of makes sense. And I mean, you can't protest in Egypt. You can protest, but you don't know what's going to happen to you next, I guess. So that's kind of different from Germany, I guess. And yeah, and Germany is kind of much more developed economy, and you can people have this they say, but Egypt is kind of the opposite. And
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
so, like, how are things in Germany in general, like, relate to your career, like business and everything? Like, how do you find that to be in Germany? Like, basically, your future career opportunities. What do you think about that?
So this is actually interesting because management on its own is redundant. Like I even was speaking to one of the like German recruiters over here, and they were talking about how if there is a management position or an administration position, you're gonna get over 200 applications. But if there is a like a specialized an engineering position or a computer science position, a programming position, you're just gonna get two applicants. And that's really funny because like the future is heading towards a more digitalized pace or like uh, society or like job pace job market. But people over here are not changing like with the like with how the world is changing. And so to for me to like actually become relevant over here and find a job, I have to like combine computer science or like digitalization with something in management. And I don't think I've spoken a lot about like what I was interested in management. And it's basically finance. So right now I'm actually writing my thesis on digital finance. And so that's a relevant field, I think, or it's going to be relevant forever, starting like as soon as like blockchain networks and cryptocurrencies become a thing, like a day-to-day thing. And um, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Like I just need to remain positive. I just need to remain positive and learn the language, obviously.
Yeah, like that kind of makes sense. Like you're positive and you have learned German before and you're still like kind of learning. I mean, which kind of makes sense. You're going to another country and like which has their own language and like most of the things are their own language. People are like, can I survive with English? Always they keep asking these things, like especially in Europe because they have another language. When you're going to a country, like the least you can do is learn the language, right? And at least try to integrate. At least you get to know more about their culture, like, and you get to meet more people and converse in their own language. And, obviously, like when you converse in their own language, um, they kind of open up more, and obviously you're gonna get more opportunities. So, I mean, looks like you're a really good planner, and you've laid out a good plan of your life until this point. So what is going to be your future plans? Like, do you have something like a 5 year and 10-year plan?
So I'm just gonna make it simple because like when I talk about like plans, I think I go way over 10 years, but I'm just gonna talk about my 5 year plan. And so when I think of plans, I don't actually plan my day to day. I sort of decide on a goal. Like I sort of envision myself as something. So, for example, if I look at myself at the age of 30, I see myself as someone who's like basically either managing multiple organizations and doing a lot like to the community, or like a person who is like very successful in one field. And so I know like some people would be like, how are you going to be managing like multiple organizations, or how would you see yourself like that? And I just don't know. I just see it and I believe it, and how it's going to get executed is basically by me just continuously like working every day to make it happen. Like I would say I'm a person who works most of his time, and I try to like do or test the waters everywhere, like like what we're doing with this podcast, for example. And when I say like multiple organizations, it doesn't need to be like multi-billion dollar organizations. I don't mind if like I'm managing a non-for-profit organization, like that's completely fine. Like if I'm managing one non-for-profit, one startup, and another, for example, full-time position in a company, for me that's like managing more than one organization or like more than one position.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, and at the same time, just thinking um, how challenging it can be also, because it's, I mean, it's, you don't get anything easily, but it's challenging, but I think it's going to be worth it because you have to do a lot of stuff in between these 10 years to achieve that goal. And I guess,
Yeah, definitely. Like I, so one of the things that I'd like to say before we move on, I would like to like advise people not to actually think about reaching reaching a destination, which is actually I wanted to talk about it before. I wanted to talk about like that one lesson that one of the professors at Harriet taught me, which is basically be content, number one, and don't think about life as stages. Even though I still think about life as stages, but I don't really think about the end goal anymore. I just think about what I'm doing every day. And if I'm having fun with it, if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, if I am like growing as an individual, then I feel I'm going to reach whatever it is that I envision myself as. And I think the first thing to achieving something is for you to actually believe that you can become it. So I just wanted to say that before we continue.
yeah, I probably know who you're talking about because I've had some similar discussions with that person. And yeah, what you're saying kind of makes sense. I mean, if you want to do something, the first step is believing that you can do it and you starting to do it. Because if you're gonna ponder over it and think about that, oh, how I'm gonna achieve it, you're never gonna start. That's one thing. And one more thing that I want to say is like, what the way you plan is like envisioning goals. Yeah, that's kind of works. But I guess like once you plan to reach your goal, I mean, you also at times plan your daily stuff, right? So in the end, like you decide the end goal and then you decide the smaller steps. You plan the smaller steps to reach that goal. So, anyways,
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
planning is the key. If you don't plan anything and just do things haphazardly, you're not going to reach the goal. So, yeah, planning is the key, right?
Yeah, like I think when I said I don't plan my day to day, I think that's a bit wrong. But what I basically do is I just put on like actually right now I'm focusing on only five things. And so I just like sort of divide it into different days. And so each day would be me doing a couple of stuff for like for the thing. So if I, for example, right now we're working on this podcast, I am working with some other guys on like an application, and I'm like doing my masters. I'm also helping like this my high school in doing like some activities online, like some events online. And so the way I organize my stuff is basically I give my university at the moment the most of my time, but at the same time, if it's like 1 hour a day or like half an hour a day, I'm also like thinking about the other stuff. So like half an hour for each thing. So it could be like 2.5 hours for each thing, and the rest of the time I'm thinking about like my university stuff. But on the weekends, which is very surprising, I'm not doing any university work, but I'm just focusing 100% on the three things I'm doing, which are the podcast, the society in like my high school, and the application that we're building. So to me, if I achieve those three things or four things each week, I'm happy. Like, and that's to me counts as progress.
Yeah, sounds nice. And yeah, let's move on. So, Abdul, do you have any final words for the listeners before we end?
I don't know like what to say exactly because from my experience, I like advices don't actually work for everyone. And so I'd like to like just encourage everyone to keep discovering stuff, keep learning stuff, and keep trying out stuff, no matter how old you are. Like, even if you're 28 and you just finished your bachelor's, it doesn't really matter. Like, the future is still ahead of you. Like, you still have a lot of years ahead of you. So keep doing stuff, keep trying out stuff, touch the water everywhere, fail a million times. Like, I know this sounds cringy as hell, but I like I when I think I'm not supposed to say it in that way, but I'm a person who welcomes failure. Like, I am when I say I want to fail, I don't mean I want to fail. I just basically sort of manage my risks whenever I'm about to fail, and or whenever I'm about to like think that I'm gonna fail. And so I probably fail hundreds of times, like every day. Like, for example, if you have a question and you're trying to like solve a question, you're failing if you're not solving it. And how do you like end up with the final solution, with the correct solution? You keep failing hundreds of times until you actually know how to solve it. And life is not different. Like, life is really not that different. You just keep failing, you keep trying stuff, keep meeting individuals who are incompetent and who need like some sort of like, I don't know, punishment for them to like really understand what's going on. But you're gonna meet them everywhere. You get to learn from them a bit. You get to like meet the good people, good friends, make good friends, and you get to experience people who are better than you. So you get to learn from them as well. And one of the things that is probably, I don't know if other people do it or not, but I sort of, I'm a mixture of like other people's good, and I try to like, whenever I see something bad happening, I try to like think about if I like whether I'm doing it or not, and I try to like let it go or like forget about it and change it. So keep experiencing life and keep like changing and adapting to what's happening around you. And I think you're just gonna do fine. You're gonna do just fine wherever you are, whichever field it is, and wherever you are.
Yeah, so that was some wise words.
This was really like, to be honest, talking about yourself. Now that I'm actually like in the position of like our interviewees, it's like I don't know. You feel a lot of pressure, not because of like what you are about to say, but you're basically putting your life out there and for people to like understand and think about and probably judge as well. But it doesn't really like it may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing, but we're never gonna know. So,
I
guys,
mean, I mean that was the point, right? Like someone comes, listens to like 1 hour of the 1 hour or so of a person's episode, and then I mean they can learn stuff, which is one thing. If they want to judge, let them. It's not like it's gonna affect us in any way. We might gain friends, we might lose friends through this episode. You never know. Um, But yeah, let them judge if they want to. It's like doesn't affect us.
It's you're right. This is actually why we started this, right? We actually started this because we used to have a lot of conversations about about us in general, about how we spent our days or our weeks, and we used to talk about different topics. And yeah, that's why we thought it was really beneficial for people to actually hear us talk about it. So yeah,
We just have to control ourselves and not say everything. It's not good thing. So, at least we're saying stuff that is useful, right?
yeah. So how are we gonna end this? How are we gonna end this?
Uh, so thank you guys for listening, and we're gonna have one more for this series, and then we're gonna move on to another series for time being. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, Abdul, for sharing, and don't forget to like and share.